So let's start from the beginning.
Go another day of wasting any time. I've got a lot to say, can't hold it in this time. No filter, I got no filter. No filter, I got...
Let's start from the fact that we recently have learned, finally we have learned what the US, Ukraine / Russia plan is. The 20 points have been revealed. So I guess we can start here. I guess we can start by talking about the whole bit. Finish with Suikoden for now. So I guess we're going to talk about the 20 points. Then we're going to be talking about the perpetual misunderstanding between Russia, the US, and Ukraine, or rather the US wanting to just get this war over and done with, get it out of the way to be able to do oil and rare earth mineral deals with Russia, because as I will remind you, Russia has in its disposal estimated 10% of rare earth minerals of the world. Yeah, it has access to 10% of world's rare earth minerals, but only exports 1% because Russia is not very good at excavating as well as at refining those minerals. And Donald Trump would like to take advantage of that and say, we will introduce US technology, but, you know, in exchange for that, you have to give us mineral rights or whatever. He wants to do with business with Russia. So that's Trump's incentive for ending the war. Russia, of course, wants everything. Russia ideally would like the entirety of Ukraine and to rebuild its sphere in Europe. It wants the Soviet sphere back, or even the Russian Empire. I remember when Putin, just before the invasion, gave his famous speech, or maybe infamous speech, and he talked about the Soviet Union, but he also talked about the Russian Empire. I believe he even showed a map on which the old borders of the Russian Empire were shown, which gave me a little bit of a chill because, of course, Poland was part of the Russian Empire after the partitions of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. So that's Russia's interest in the peace talks. Russia will not agree to any peace talks that would not force Ukraine to give up all the entirety of the Donbass, and a lot of concessions regarding demilitarization, regarding Ukraine's neutral status, no NATO. It's all in there. And Ukraine's basically trying to survive. That's it. Oh yeah, and also a lot of the rare earth minerals of Ukraine are in Donbass as well. So the deal that the US and Ukraine has signed in the past about rare earths is quickly becoming a worthless piece of paper in real time. A lot of the people that I interviewed during my latest trip to Ukraine have point blank asked me, okay, why did we sign this deal with the United States? What was the point of signing the mineral deal? Why is the US stabbing us right now? Why should we be giving up territory when there are so many people living in there? We have given our lives for those people and we should abandon them now? Why? There's so many questions that I've been asked about this whole peace mess, but you know, we're gonna get there because, of course, there's an interesting aspect to all of this. But let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the 20-point peace plan. Zelensky reveals new 20-point peace plan, but two key differences remain after US talks.
An 800,000-strong army, security guarantees for Ukraine, and an $800 billion reconstruction fund. That's the core of the 20-point plan for peace between Kyiv and Moscow, presented by President Volodymyr Zelensky, following talks with the US delegation. The Ukrainian president also signaled the possibility of ceding control over some areas still held by Kyiv's forces. The plan is a slimmed-down version of the 28-point plan originally proposed by the United States in November. The plan contains NATO-like security guarantees for Ukraine, but makes no mention of the country's entry into the pact.
So, in other words, like I've already talked about this, the Article 5 guarantee is a mirage, it's a lie. I don't believe it will do anything. It's basically saying, okay, in the event that you will get attacked again, we might help you, but we actually reserve the choice not to help you, which means that in practice, most countries will say, well, it's true that you have an Article 5 like guarantee, but we think we'll just send you some weapons, maybe do some sanctions, because that is the alternative to sending troops. Like all the countries reserve the right to send troops and do sanctions instead of. So all allies of Ukraine reserve the right to do the lackluster response that they've done now, to just go back to what's being done now. So this security guarantee is in actuality not a guarantee at all. It's a mirage. It's a lie.
President Zelensky, however, reiterated on Wednesday that Kyiv will not let go of its ambitions to join the alliance. On territory, the plan envisages the possibility...
Oh yeah, there's been a rumor that Zelensky said that he's willing to give up Ukraine's NATO aspirations. A lot of the media has went with this narrative that Zelensky is saying he will give up on NATO. Zelensky is willing for security guarantees to just state that Ukraine will not be joining NATO. And then Zelensky came out and said, no, I never said that. My words have been misinterpreted. I said that Ukraine cannot join NATO right now, that there is no will to allow Ukraine to join NATO right now. But situations change, politicians die. And when Zelensky said that, all the MAGA heads just started shouting that Zelensky said that he hopes Trump dies, which was pretty interesting. But yeah, basically he said, I never said that we are giving up on NATO. I just said that it's not happening now. But sooner or later it will. And we are definitely not giving up on our bid to join the alliance.
Of Ukraine's forces ceding control over some areas, creating a free economic zone in the process. The plan will now form the basis of discussions between Russia and the US. The Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov on Wednesday said that only Moscow's demands are well known by now.
Yeah, the maximalist demands, the no-starter demands of wanting everything and giving nothing in return. Because let us remember that when Trump was, during one of his flights, when Trump was asked, so what kind of concessions will Russia be making in all of this? Trump just said, well, the concession that Russia makes is that it will not continue its attack. It will stop the war. That's the concessions that are expected from Russia. But for Russia, that's not enough, because Russia doesn't just want to not give anything to Ukraine. Russia also wants to get everything from Ukraine. And to be quite honest, as the peace plan is shaping up right now, it doesn't seem like Russia will agree to it. It feels like Russia will reject it. And that is where Zelensky's intelligence enters the conversation. You'll see in a moment. I'm just building up to the story that I actually want to talk about. I guess that's it. What's in the latest 20-point Ukraine peace plan?
Our negotiating team, Rustem Umerov and Andrei Hnatov, returned from meetings with representatives of President Trump in the United States. They reported on the working draft agreements already in place, as well as the provisions that we strengthened. We are in constant contact with the United States and expect to continue working together. We believe that the United States wants to reach a final agreement, and we are fully cooperating. Ukraine has never been and never will be an obstacle to peace. We are actively working to ensure the documents are finalized and realistic. The key is for Russia to not sabotage this diplomacy and to take ending the war seriously. If not, additional pressure must be applied to Russia. The world has all the necessary tools to achieve that pressure and peace.
So basically, it is a very intricate dance. It is quite the intricate dance because the United States have so far not been interested in putting any pressure on Russia, apart from the one time when Trump has put some sanctions on Russia, namely on its oil industry, which have since been loosened. For example, there's been an exception given to Hungary, which by extension was an exception to Slovakia, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that the United States is not really willing to put any pressure on Russia, while it keeps putting pressure on Ukraine, in which case the play on Zelensky and Ukraine is to say, look, we play ball, we are willing to compromise, we are willing to do whatever it takes to achieve this peace. But Russia isn't. Russia clearly isn't. Even though it claims it wants peace, it will not. It will reject whatever we propose, even if we are willing to go quite far to compromise. And this will be very evident in what I'm about to talk about. We're not going to go through all the 20 points. There's no point right now to do it. There is a more recent, more interesting story that I actually want to talk about. And that is this. Zelensky says he is prepared to call a referendum on Trump plan if Russia agrees to ceasefire. And this is a very interesting thing on many levels. Well, should I start? So the play here is this. We are willing to consider plan as proposed by Donald Trump. So they are basically saying that they are on Trump's side on this. Okay. And we are willing to compromise on certain things, even territorial, although that will be up to the people of Ukraine to decide, which I will say that if there was a referendum on Trump's plan and it would include giving up the Donbass, I will tell you already, in my opinion, that referendum would definitely reject such a plan. But putting aside the fact that from what I've heard from Ukrainian people during my latest visit, nobody wants to agree to giving up territory. Nobody wants to agree to an unfair plan. But that's not neither here nor there. The referendum would not end well for the peace plan as it is right now. But Zelensky is doing something much more clever in here, because the referendum, technically speaking, could go either way. But what Zelensky is saying here is this. If Russia is really serious about peace, which it claims to be, then it should have no problem to agree to a 60-day ceasefire, during which we will organize a referendum, and the people of Ukraine will be able to decide by themselves if they want to accept Donald Trump's plan. It puts the pressure on Russia to demonstrate that they are a party that actually wants peace and is not just stalling for time and is not just looking for ways to gain more Ukrainian territory, to weaken Ukraine more, and to get as much as they can. And what Zelensky is hoping for here is to, first of all, call the cards on Russia, to tell them, we don't believe you. We don't believe that you actually want peace. We believe that you are just lying to us constantly, which is true. Russia has been lying constantly. And to demonstrate it to all the skeptical allies of Ukraine. And the second purpose of this is to convince Trump to finally put some pressure on Russia should it reject the proposal for a ceasefire. I have heard reports that allegedly Russia has agreed that a ceasefire would be necessary to perform a referendum, which is not exactly the same as agreeing to a ceasefire itself, but we will see. We will see what the Russian official response to this will be. So this is, I will say, a very smart move by Volodymyr Zelensky. He calls Russia's bluff, so to speak, by saying, prove to us that you are actually willing to move towards peace in a significant way by agreeing to this ceasefire. And if not, convincing Trump that more significant pressure on Russia is necessary for his plan to succeed and for peace to be achieved, right? I would say that this is a very savvy political move by Vladimir Zelensky in this case. Zelensky is to discuss territorial issues, the main stumbling block in talks to end the war, with Trump in Florida as a 20-point peace framework and security guarantees deal is near completion. The talk is supposed to be happening on Sunday, so this weekend. I am very skeptical of those peace negotiations. I've never been one to hide it. I've never been a person to say, oh, I think the war will end soon. I think this is all about to be finally settled. I have no illusions about this. There's just the discrepancies in interest are just too great between Ukraine and Russia, and Russia will never agree to anything but its maximalist demands. Russia still considers itself a great power on the world stage in the international relations realism sense. And so it thinks that it can push brute force its maximalist demands. And it also believes that it is winning the war on the battlefield. So unless some real pressure is actually put on Russia to force it to treat the negotiations seriously, I have no hopes that anything will come from this. I definitely do not think there will be a breakthrough before New Year's. I think the war will continue to next year. I'm sorry. I'm a negative person, I guess, but that is what I think. I'm not holding my breath. It will be a huge shock if anything significant will come out of this weekend. That would actually surprise me a great deal. But it's better to be pleasantly surprised than to be bitterly disappointed, I say. Announcing the meeting, Zelensky said that a lot can be decided before the new year. I honestly doubt it. As Washington continues to, in a way that's true. In a way it's true that a lot of things could be decided before New Year's. For example, Ukraine's proposal for a ceasefire could be put forward to Russia, and Russia could reject it before New Year's, which would mean that a decision could be made before New Year's to put more pressure on Russia. I believe that could happen, but I don't believe any real breakthrough towards peace will happen. As Washington continues to drive efforts to end Russia's full-scale war in Ukraine, Europe's deadliest conflict since World War II. As for the sensitive issues, we will discuss both Donbass and the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. We will certainly discuss other issues as well, he told reporters in Russia WhatsApp chat. Russia wants Ukraine to withdraw from the parts of the eastern Donetsk region that its troops have failed to occupy during almost 4 years. And it also wants Ukraine to retreat from all the heaviest fortified areas, which would of course open the door for Russia to invade in the future. Let's be honest about that. Let's not mince words. Let's not be naive in all this. Kyiv wants fighting to be halted at the current battle lines, which already, I might add, is a form of a compromise on the part of Ukraine. The US, seeking a compromise, proposed a free economic zone. If Ukraine leaves the area, it remained unclear how that zone would function in practical terms. And there was no demand on Russia to leave that zone, which is also very interesting. Territorial issues remain a hurdle to negotiations moving forward. Any compromises on territory should be decided by the Ukrainian people in a potential referendum. We've already talked about that. And the details will be defined in the meeting. Zelensky added his meeting with Trump aimed to refine things. There's a security guarantees agreement between Ukraine and the US was almost ready, and the 20-point plan draft was at 90% completion, Zelensky added. And that is already something that I will say makes this unworkable. Because any actual real security guarantees that would actually secure Ukraine from being invaded in the future or intruded upon, Russia will not agree to that. The whole point of not allowing Ukraine to join NATO is to leave Ukraine defenseless. Anything that will very much leave Ukraine safe and secure is something that Russia will not agree to on principle. And I feel like, I don't even know if the US necessarily does not understand it. I feel like Trump does not care. And unless some real pressure is put on Russia to force it to agree to those terms, it will not. It will just continue the war. Because again, Russia thinks that it's winning. And as long as Russia believes that it's winning, it will continue. It will just try to outlast the allies and to get as much as it can from Ukraine. Wary of failed guarantees from allies in the past, Ukraine is seeking robust and legally binding deals to prevent any further Russian aggression, which again, Russia will never agree to. And the White House has not agreed to comment because, of course, Trump, who has at times expressed frustration with the slow pace of progress in the negotiations, previously suggested that he would meet with Zelensky if he felt that a major diplomatic advance was possible, which I do not believe will happen. But we will just wait and see what will come out of Sunday. Trump likes to hype things up. Trump is the hype man of the peace talks. He always says that a breakthrough is near. We're about to see something good happen. We've been hearing this for a year now. And so far, we are no closer to peace than we were in January. European leaders might join the talks online, according to Zelensky. On Friday, he discussed significant progress in peace efforts with Finland's President Alexander Stubb. I don't see that significant progress. Like if both Ukraine and Russia cannot agree to a ceasefire, let alone to a peace plan, then it's not going anywhere. It's just wishful thinking. And there we have it. Russia's demands. It was not clear which peace plan proposals Moscow would be willing to accept. I think it's pretty clear. I think it is pretty clear that Russia is not willing to accept any proposal that will actually give Ukraine real security guarantees, for one. And Russia will not agree to any peace proposal that will not give Ukraine the entirety of the Donbass. Russia has time and time again said that it will not move away from those points. Putin's foreign policy aide, Yuri Ushakov, spoke with members of the Trump administration after Moscow received U.S. proposals about a possible peace deal, the Kremlin said on Friday. Russia was not willing to agree to the 28-point plan, which was far worse than this. So I have no idea why everybody expects Russia to agree to a plan that it will perceive to be even worse for it than the initial one. When asked how Moscow viewed the documents, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said he would not want to comment as Russia felt making remarks in public could undermine the negotiations. They rejected it several times at this point. Russia's Kommersant newspaper reported that Putin told some of Russia's top businessmen that he might be open to swapping some territory controlled by Russian forces elsewhere in Ukraine, but then in exchange he wanted the whole of the Donbass. See, Russia will never agree not to have the entirety of the Donbass. I'm calling it now. Even as the talks proceeded, Russia continued hammering Ukraine's energy infrastructure and stepped up attacks on the southern region of Odessa. Why? Because Russia really wants to be able to say at all times, we're winning. We are on the offensive. Why should we agree to a lesser deal? We will have the entirety of the Donbass. That is the underlying cause of this conflict. And until Russia is forced to agree, then there's no breakthrough. There's no real moving forward towards peace. There's no real significant chance at a diplomatic... Well, there's just no chance at diplomatic progress before New Year's. Zelensky said he planned to raise the issue of placing additional pressure on Russia with Trump, and that is the real thing that we can hope for. What we can hope for is that finally there will be some more pressure on Russia, because I have no hope that this will lead to Russia agreeing to a ceasefire, but we will see. We will see what will happen on Sunday during the talks, and it's all in the air. It's all up in the air right now. Okay? I personally think that it will go. I feel like this is the scenario where it will go. Russia will reject the ceasefire, or it will ask for it to be ridiculously short. Russia will say that a 60-day ceasefire or even a 30-day ceasefire will just give Ukraine time for respite and to rebuild its forces to fight against Russia. So Russia will use this as an excuse to reject the ceasefire. And Zelensky will use that to push for the United States to put some real pressure on Russia. Now, whether or not Trump is actually willing to do that is a completely different question. It is a different question altogether. So now how things will move forward will depend on two things. One, how the conversation on Sunday in Florida will go. And two, whether or not Russia is willing to agree to a ceasefire. So we have all the facts. We have all the information. I have given you my opinion, very bitter and skeptical opinion. But now all we can do is wait. We can all just wait and see what will happen.